I also think that modeling behavior is the best way to show that things work. Like, even if someone doesn't want to try something, by someone modeling the proper communication or how they would like to be treated, I think when you model that for someone, it's a much more convincing argument than telling them what they need to do.
Sun is coming up, are you ready to go? We can take a ride, we can take it slow, yo. Well, welcome back to the show. I am so excited to have this conversation. As Chinae said on her episode of her podcast that I was just on, this has been in the works forever. And I'm pretty sure I've pitched her a million times. She just ignored my DMs. I'm just kidding, but maybe not really.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think
kidding.
the first one was like, I think your first DM'd me, if I can remember back. I mean, we have the receipts.
We have the receipts.
But I think you were just like, oh, I love you. And I'm like, oh, wait, you're like a person that I don't follow a lot of the men folk on Instagram. Let me just say that. And you're maybe one of like 5 men I follow.
So the first question that I always start with, Chinae, is I believe that self-love is the devotion to your individuality. You know, getting super, super falling in love with what makes you you, and the fact that you are the only you on this planet with the gifts that you're given and everything in between. So I'm curious, like, who are you? How do you want to be known? And what lights you up?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the thing that lights me up is people. People, like, for me, are my passion. It's funny, whenever I worked in marketing for like 8 years, and I got kindly fired from that job. My boss was like, you don't have anywhere to grow here. I can't pay you what you're worth, and you're supposed to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, holy F, like, what? I'm what? And I had always had this like thing in me that's like, I want to start something, but I don't know what. And I did this thing. And if anyone's ever searching, that's listening, searching for something of like, what am I supposed to do? What's my next move? Whether it's a job or just like in your journey of being you, I went around and asked people actually what they thought I was good at. Like, people that I really trusted.
This whole idea of just like being ripped away from the thing that brings you the most joy. Like, how did you work through that?
I ordered a lot of delivery, and I got an anxiety medication.
Amazing.
No, but truthfully, I took medication a long time ago because I do have anxiety disorder, and I talk about this a lot on social media. And obviously I've been in therapy for a long time. And there was a time where I was on anxiety medication and took medication for panic disorder. And I actually moved out of that point in my life. And I was really feeling like I had a handle on things. And I was really working on myself actively in other ways other than medication. Like, who am I beyond what I make? Who am I beyond what I can do for other people? Because I do get a lot of my identity from like how helpful or how loving or how thoughtful I can be for others. And this past really 2 years has been the stripping away of that, which has been a rude awakening, but it's been necessary.
Amen. I'm curious, like, how did you answer those questions? Like, who am I outside of how I make people feel? Like, what was your process to moving through that?
I mean, I can't lie. I cried a lot. I cried a lot. She was crying in the tub. She took a lot of afternoon baths. Like, afternoon baths became my thing. And that was my contemplative time. And really, like, what I realized was I can love all those things about myself, but I don't have to hinge my worth on how they make other people feel.
What I really enjoy about you and what you put out into the world is that you share like most, if not all of yourself with the world. And I'm kind of the same way. And I feel like sometimes there can be like this vulnerability hangover. It can get really exhausting to be like sharing everything, like to the point where there was a time where you were posting naked photos of yourself on the internet. Like, how do you navigate through all of that?
The turning point for me, especially with showing up in my own body online, was I was sitting in a cafe in Portland. I was in Portland for a shoot, and I was sitting in a cafe looking at my email, and an email popped up, and it was like women's health wants to photograph you for their body image issue. It was a nude shoot. And I immediately was like, reply, thank you so much for thinking of me. I think I'm going to have to decline at this time, but appreciate, the thought. And I was about to send the email and I was like, why haven't I even given myself 30 seconds to think about like this? And what does that mean to me? And like, why am I saying no so quickly? And then I had to stop and think of like, what are the benefits of this, not just for me, but for others? And I was like, why wouldn't I grasp on for the chance to show up in a way that might make someone viewing it feel more seen? And so for me, that's when it really clicked with me of like, I want to show up online the way I do in life.
So there was a post that I did about money and how Richard and I got into an insane fight about our finances. Afterwards, he was like, Paul, it really upset me that we had this blow up fight. And instead of having a conversation about it, you posted on Instagram about it. And I had to find out through your post about how you really felt. And that's just been the journey for me, is just like being okay with those parts and knowing that he's never going to get it. I mean, what's your experience with that?
I've had whole boyfriends that I didn't even show on internet. Like people are like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you. You're in a relationship. I'm like, oh girl, I was in a relationship like 3 years ago and you didn't see it. Like I've since I've been doing this for like 5 or 6 years now, I've just had to really frank conversations, even from the like first date, of being like, what are your thoughts on social media? What are your boundaries with privacy on social media? And I really let the person dictate it.
Yes, period. We get to believe people and not doubt them. And it's all because of past things that happened. Your dad lied to you when you were 2.5. And
Right.
from there on out, you think every man lies or whatever. And it's this beautiful opportunity to recondition your brain to trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then what I like to dive into is like, if you don't trust others, it probably is because you don't trust yourself.
Absolutely. I love when you were on my podcast and you were talking about how we tell ourselves a story about what's happening. And I think a similar thing is happening in these kind of situations where we tell ourselves a story about what's going to happen. But then in the inverse is like we're taking stories from our past and like putting them on us and being like, no, this is the truth because this happened to me. And it's like, sure, that happened to you, but now we get to move on from that. And that's really hard. I mean, my dad kind of like basically like up and left for years in my life and without any sort of notice. And that I realized how much work I had to do with undoing the thought that men leave. And you need to do everything in your power to create security so men don't leave. And that was a lot of work, and it still is a lot of work.
Do you have any like front of mind things that you do to work through that kind of stuff?
Really asking yourself what is actually happening and like kind of reality checking yourself in the moment. Be like, okay, we did have a fight. There were harsh words spoken. He does need space and time to like process, and I need space and time to process. But he has not left. He has not said he's not going to talk about it. He hasn't turned his back. Like, what are the facts that we're actually dealing with here? And that's, I mean, it's not a perfect process, but certainly like going through the facts and also admitting to myself, listen, if this person's going to abandon you, there is nothing that you can do to fix that or to change that. It hasn't happened yet. So you don't need to deal with the problem that hasn't happened yet.
So, I mean, this is a big thing because a lot of my clients come to me and they're like, oh my gosh, this work has changed my life. I wish my husband would do it or wish my kids would do it. And I was like, hold the phone. Let's stop right there. You are never going to be able to change someone or get them to do this work. You get to be the leader in this work. And I guarantee 9 times out of 10, I could almost say 10 times out of 10, that by you doing the work, you changing your behavior, you setting yourself up for success, you are going to have a positive impact on your partners, your friends, your family. And either there's people who are going to rise to the occasion or people who are going to disappear.
Right.
And if we focus on someone else not doing the work, then we're just creating an excuse for ourselves. It's not a reason. There's a
Yeah.
very big difference between reason and excuse. And it's just a big fat excuse for
Yeah.
you saying, I'm not going to do this because he's not going to do this. Well, guess
Right.
what? You're just going to be stuck in that dance that you guys are doing.
And I also think that modeling behavior is the best way to show that things work. Like
Mhm.
even if someone doesn't want to try something, by someone modeling the proper communication or how they would like to be treated, I think when you model that for someone, it's a much more convincing argument than telling them what they need to do. Like
Mhm.
if I can say, "Hey, actually, like I had a person call in on my show the other day, and um her boyfriend wanted to move on from a situation. He wasn't showing empathy and all of this." And I was like, well, have you empathized with him on why he was so upset? And she was like, well, no, because he's not showing me empathy.
We always play We're Not Really Strangers here on the Road to Self-Love. I don't know if you're familiar with that game,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's a card game. And I love to ask just a random question. And and the question that I drew for us is, when was a time that you really needed help but didn't ask for it?
During actually the last year, I was having such a dark time in quarantine. I felt really lonely. I was feeling really depleted. And for probably 3 months, I suffered in like silence, even next to my partner. He was there every day, just trying to like survive it. And I truly didn't think I could ask for help because everyone was going through such a terrible time. And finally, I just like broke. It took breaking to actually talk about it and actually ask for help. And even in that asking for help, I wasn't even asking for help. I was just breaking.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that a
Yeah.
lot of people are going to be able to relate. Just a couple of more questions. What does self-love mean to you?
I think for me, isn't it, it's just about showing up as you
Mm.
are, and you don't it's about not passing judgment, good or bad. It's about being and presenting what is there. And that to me is that vulnerability piece that is is the way that you can receive love, and the way that you can love is showing up
Mm.
as you are.
Mm. I love that. Chinae, where can people find you?
You can find me at Chinae Alexander, Chinae Alexander, on the things. And you can listen to my podcast, Press and Podcast. And if you have an episode that you want to start with, listen to me and Paul's episode, because we're just two old friends talking and we have a totally different conversation.
Yes, self-lovers, definitely go check out Shanae's Instagram. And if you love this episode, please, please make sure to rate and review. It gets in front of more people. And remember, you are worth it. You deserve it. And you are not alone. We'll see you next time. Bye.